All right, look at those pink Converses.
Yeah. I got a pair of those at home.
See? You should wear them. You should wear them the day that we do this in class. Pink high tops?
High tops, man. Pink ones. Go with my pink socks. My pink toenails, too.
All right, guys, we are on Converses today. Don't know how to follow that. I don't have pink Converses, so I can't wear mine. I'm trying to figure out if he's telling the truth or not, actually. So we're on the next section.
Let me put my toenails in the video.
I know the toenails are there. Yes. I'm not sure if you want to ask about that one. 3-3, proving lines parallel, the converses of all those theorems that we just did. So we swap the hypothesis and conclusion. And so for these, it's going to mean we're not told that the lines are parallel. We're told some pair of angles are congruent somewhere, and that forces the lines to be parallel. So they go backwards.
Just that whole biconditional idea.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
Yeah.
Since it's true forward, it's got to be true backwards, and then it becomes a biconditional.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty easy. Make sure you guys pay attention to the way this PowerPoint's kind of listed, though, because it says if, and then it's in those parentheses there, and then it goes to are congruent down there at the end. It's kind of confusing if you're not paying close attention, because a bunch of stuff's going to fly in here.
Well, because we had 3 rules that had to do with congruence.
Yeah.
And they just put them all in one.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Pretty easy, though.
Do you want to run with it?
Sure. So basically, guys, the idea here is if corresponding angles or alternate interior angles or alternate exterior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So it's just the converse of what we were learning yesterday.
But again, there's 3 statements there.
Yeah. I mean, they're all 3 different things.
Right. If corresponding angles are congruent,
If
alternate interior angles are congruent, they're 3 separate theorems.
Yeah.
They just put them together here.
So we're just going the other direction. Yesterday we said if 2 lines are parallel and cut by a transversal, then all those 3 sets of angles would be congruent. And now we're just saying if you see a drawing and you notice that the corresponding angles are congruent, or the alternate interior angles are congruent, or the alternate exterior angles are congruent, then you can deduce that the 2 lines that are being cut by the transversal are indeed parallel.
And they could show us that a couple different ways. They could show us that with little angle mark arcs. Yep. Or they could tell us like this one's 50 and this one's 50. They could give us an actual measure.
That's right.
So that's what you need to be looking for in the diagram.
And then the last one, their friend, same side interior, consecutive interior, basically is going to say if consecutive interior angles are supplementary, then the lines are parallel. So if you see 2 angles on the same side on the inside, and their measurements add up to 180, then you can conclude that the 2 lines being cut by the transversal are parallel. So guys, we're just taking what we learned yesterday and switching it and looking back the other direction. So now they're just going to give you different information, and you're going to come back to the fact that the lines are parallel now.
And that one they would have to give you the measurements.
Yeah, they definitely have
supplementary.
To give you Yep, that's
they
for sure.
Mark
unless they give you 2 90-degree angles.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right.
All right.
So it's just the converses of them.
Yep.
Okay. So let's take an example here. It says find the x for these angles that force the lines to be parallel. Well, the only way you're going to force those lines to be parallel is if those 2 angles, because they're same side interior angles, the only way you're going to force the lines to be parallel is if those are supplementary. So we have to set up an equation where those are supplementary and then solve for x, because that's the x that would make them supplementary to each other. So we set up an equation that has 2x plus 20 plus the 3x equal to 180. Because again, that's what supplementary means. They add to 180. Okay, we just go through and solve that. And so we're adding the x's together. And so there's 5 of them. And we're subtracting 20 from both sides. And so we end up with 5x equals 160. And if you divide both sides by the 5 then, to get the x all by itself, we're going to end up with 32 for the x. And the question was, find the x that makes the lines parallel, that makes those 2 angles supplementary. And so if x is 32, that happens. All right? Still kind of the opposite of what we were doing yesterday.
Yeah, exactly the opposite. I mean, now we're just figuring out the lines are parallel instead. And so x is 32. Oh, and then they go back here and they plug that in. So if 3 times 32 is 96, well then based on the idea of supplementary, then all you got to do is subtract 180 by 96, and you get, what, 84?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For the other one. Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay. All right, and the transitive property of parallel lines. Okay, So if two lines are parallel to the same line, then they are parallel to each other. So it's kind of like if A equals B and B equals C, then A also equals C. Well, this one is just the same thing. If P is parallel to Q, down there at the bottom left, you can see that. If P is parallel to Q and Q is parallel to R, the middle man is Q, so I can dump Q and say that P is parallel to R. A lot like the law of syllogism.
It is.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think, are we going to keep having these? No. This is the only, as far as I can remember, besides transitive of equal or congruence, this is the only other transitive property that we have is parallel lines.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure that that's the way it is. So we're not going to keep having other transitive properties. As far as I know, this is it. And so equality is the main one we use. But we use this quite a bit too. So, and I believe that's it.
That's it.
All we're doing is the converse. And so really all this is just more practice on the
Just an
parallel
extension
lines.
of the other one, yeah.
Yeah. So we're just going to keep spending some more time on that to give you more practice. So, all right.
Short and sweet.
Ask Mr. Padella to see those pink converses. We'll see you in class.